Hey, how's everybody doing today? You back here with Coffee Talk with Brohawk, and I have one of my favorite trainers in my career, Ben Gertz, with me. And he's not just a trainer; he's much more than that. I mean, he's figured out learning and development, um, and has done some amazing things in the L and is doing some amazing things in the L&D space. And so, Ben, thank you very much for being a guest on this episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. Ben, can you tell our viewers a little bit about what you've been up to these days?
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, first off, awesome to be here. I love the Coffee Talk community. This is a great way to learn more about what we're doing in the industry. And I feel like I should pay you for that introduction. I don't know if I've got it all figured out, but I what I do know is I love learning and I love refining and getting better. And I mean, I've been looking forward to this conversation since you offered. I love talking shop about this. But yeah, a little bit about me. So I've spent close to 18 years now in the learning and development space, and it has just coincidentally been with contact centers. So that's kind of where my tie-in is. That's where I got started, and I kind of fell in love with CX and have really been focusing on learning and development there, but have recently really expanded more into leadership development and all sorts of other things. So I've left the corporate world as of this year, and I am now focused on my own organization, Care CX, and we help build training programs. We'll get into that, but that's a main thing I'm doing. And I'm also on the Bob Pike team as a training consultant for one of the world's best forward thinking training development organizations. So that's kind of some
Excellent.
of what I'm up to right now.
Well, we'll have to dive into a little bit of both of those, not just Care CX, but also what you're doing with Bob Pike. I think that is amazing. That you're really becoming that one-stop shop for learning and development for folks.
Yeah,
So
it's really fun. Bob Pike is, they have their own programs that they offer for training, but I think they're one of the best when it comes to how to train. So I
uh-huh.
love being a voice for them. I teach their methodology through them. It's all, but it's a great. I feel like you can't be in the training space and not know who they are. They're a great
Exactly.
resource, and yeah,
So,
cool.
so Ben, you and I have known each other, man, close to 10 years now.
Yeah,
It's
it's
been a
been a
minute or
while.
two. I mean, you were in your like teens or something. No, I'm kidding. You're not that
Yeah, I
young.
was like 14 when
But
we met,
yeah,
and
exactly.
I think I had hair too.
I love it. I love it. Uh, but you're doing some really cool things back then with training. But as what drives your passion for learning and development? What is it that really like lit your fire, so to speak, in the L&D space?
That's a great question. Because I've had this. I mean, really, where it started, the origin story, if you will, was my
Yeah.
mom was a 360 executive coach, so she worked a lot with learning and development. So very young, I was exposed to it, and I was like, "This is sick. I like helping people learn," and that was the origination of it. But then what's kept me there for 17 years isn't just that. It's really this idea of learning how to I think learning and development helps unlock people and turn that frustration into confidence. It really it builds up others, and I think that was another piece that stuck with it. And then I've just learned that the challenge that the industry poses has just been so fun. Like recently, I've really been on this idea of like helping learning and development become more about systems that drive behavior change rather than these one-time content pieces. And it's just such
Mhm.
a great industry where like there's constant challenge, there's constant areas to improve. And as a learner myself, I just like to have that metacognition of like, how am I thinking about this? How am I learning it? How do we create this for others to follow suit? And yeah, so a lot of different reasons, but it all started with my parents. Like, they happened to
Yep.
like L&D, and I was like, this is sick. I'm going to school for that. And then ended up actually falling in love with it for other reasons.
I had a feeling you didn't go to school for contact center because who actually does that? So
I
you
didn't
found your
even
niche.
I didn't even think I would be in a contact center. That was
Yeah.
more of like, whoo, student loans are due, and it's time to get a job. I got to get a big
Yeah.
boy job. And I did some research though, and found a company where I was like, oh, there. And I learned that training and development is tied so integrally to contact centers that I just kind
Yep.
of found my space. And then lo and behold, I'm sure it's the same for you. You kind of realize that the industry is pretty cool. It's great people
Yep.
in it. It's a fun challenge, and
Yes.
next thing you know, I guess we're both contact center professionals.
And we're having coffee talk.
And we're having coffee talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things like where your passion kind of came from, not just with your parents, but being able to develop content and see it spread out. Content. I have this philosophy. Content without reinforcement, is just it's why do it, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and so that's what resonates. That's what resonates with me. Um, from an L&D perspective. I mean, you can have the greatest content out there, but if it's not reinforced throughout the organization, and that's why I love that your system methodologies, that really helps to reinforce that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's huge. Thinking in terms of training events, which is like, I mean, we all know the bane of our existence is the HR yearly trainings, the IT
Yeah.
security trainings. And those things, it's not to come against training events. There's a time and a place for building
Mhm.
awareness. That's kind of the functional goal. And
Yeah.
then learning systems. That's when we're talking about behavior change, things that really need to integrate into the culture of an organization. And I agree with you 100%. I think training in general kind of needs to like there's a challenge out there to elevate our thinking beyond just content creation and how do we actually operationalize or what's the buzzword now? Create rituals. I love that, like rituals, because I think that's cool. But create some regularity in their practices weekly that focus on the outcome of that learning. And that's really where I think training needs to elevate for organizations is we need to become partners with operations. We need to be able to solve for problems outside of the classroom to really be
Yes.
effective.
Is that where you see organizations struggling with L&D today? I mean, you've seen many organizations that have struggled with L&D, is that kind of where you're seeing a lot of
Yeah,
the failures occurring?
I think so. If there's, every organization's a little different, and we all, myself included, we are all learning and moving forward, and I'm saying that to give space for like, it's okay to not be perfect. But,
Yes,
but
yes.
if you're looking at like, how do we improve? I think the fundamental question I usually start with is how is your organization handling learning events versus learning systems? Like, walk me through some of the like how are you operationalizing that critical training on whatever it might be, making better decisions, or maybe it's
Hmm.
on specific behavior change training, so like making better decisions or learning to negotiate more effectively, those sorts of things. How are you actually systematizing that? I think that's a big area where there can be a lot of growth. And I think we still have the same pain points that we had 30 years ago, which is lack of measurement, follow through. Those
Yep.
kind of relate to the system design. I think it's expensive and challenging to do
Hmm.
that. So having a program that's mindful about, how are you measuring the effectiveness? How is that being reported? I think those kind of things we still see those challenges, but most importantly, I think it starts at the objectives. Like, are we trying to change behavior? If so, how are we systematizing that? Because we know through research and studying, and if anyone in the community is interested in learning more, take a look at the forgetting curve. There's some great research
Okay.
behind that. We know that just most people don't, they're gonna forget stuff. If
Hmm.
you I always love to joke that like if you have figured out how to just tell people a thing, anything, and they just do
Uh-huh.
that with 100% perfection and they execute exactly how you said it, you are going to be a trillionaire. That's a superpower and it doesn't exist. That's not how the human
Yes.
brain works. So we have to meet them where we have to meet neuroscience and the psychology where people are, and that's where, thinking outside of those boxes of like, how are we systematizing it instead of, well, I told them in training, it's on page 23, it's on slide 19, I've said it 19 times. And it's like, that's great. Turns out people don't learn that way. So, like, how are we gonna, think about it more? So I think those are, I think we still see some of those areas in challenge, and that's okay. I think those are like healthy areas to analyze and start growing in, is just to think about like, how are we really systematizing behavior change training?
I love that. I've told you 19 times it was on page 19, that
Yeah.
do it
I don't know
this
why they don't
way. And
get it. I
yeah,
told them
come
it's in
on.
training. It's in training. And then that's in a coaching session. It's like that's
Yeah.
and I get that frustration having been a leader where it's just like I don't know and a parent. I don't know how many times I have to tell you this before you
Uh-huh.
figure it out. But on the same note, it's like, well, did I, like we have to think about how we're working and engaging with them from a learning context to be as most effective as possible. But yeah.
And I think as a leader, I mean, you've seen this, um, you know, too often, the default is when a leader has his or her back against the wall, why is your team not performing? Well, I provided them the training, is always the fallback. It's
Yeah.
not, well, I haven't done as much follow through with them to make sure that the training they received is actually being absorbed, consumed in the way that they need to have it consumed,
Yeah.
so that they can be most effective. And
I I love that. I love how you're talking about even just follow through because sometimes when we talk about it, it gets a little abstract and we almost think we have to have some gorgeous solution.
uh-huh,
When oftentimes some of the things are just like, are you consistently reaching out to the people you trained and
uh-huh,
just checking in, like seeing where things are? Have a checklist. There's all sorts of ways.
yes,
There are elegant ways and there are simple ways to do this, but yeah, I agree. And there was an analogy I was thinking of just kind of put a bow on this
uh-huh,
when you reached out to me and I was like, "Oh gosh, I think like one of the ways to really kind of differentiate this is like think about in high school you have a gym class and you're going in there
uh-huh,
and you're learning about all the different weights and all the different equipment. Cool. That's a learning event and it's useful. It has
mhm,
insights, but a training system is more like a fitness plan with scheduled workouts, nutrition tracking, coaching, and progress measurement. So like a training system that's
yes,
where we're going to see behavior change and that's what we need to build outside the classroom. It still has the learning event of welcome to gym 101 and we're going to show you all the stuff here, but we're also
uh-huh.
going to systematize it into a fitness plan with scheduled workouts, tracking, coaching and progress. So I think that's like the challenge I see in the industry today is how do we get training to stop thinking about just the classroom? That's super important. I don't want to diminish that, but
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way you think about it, and the cool thing is I've seen you put this into practice multiple times. You don't just preach one thing, but you practice what you preach. When you're looking at this. So talk to us a little bit about Care CX and one of the products that you have underneath there, Care IQ. Talk to us a little bit about that, and then also who should be talking to you about who should be talking to you about working with you um, on these products.
Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate it. So, Care CX was really founded on this idea to help contact centers elevate their customer experience through soft skills, coaching, and quality insights and doing it in a training system. So our core method is to create a common language for soft skills using our proprietary care model. We teach and help frontline learn that model, but and this is a critical part, we also bring into leadership, not to only get their buy-in, but to teach them how to coach and train to the model. And I'm glad you mentioned Care IQ. This is really the systematic piece where it's a data dashboarding that has some proprietary ideas in there that I can get into in a little bit. But the idea here, though, the important piece is that this is what helps systematize and create uh, coaching and consistent metric-based insights from that model. So what that means is when we teach supervisors how to lead and coach, we're teaching to that tool so they can see like here's the different KPIs, here's the movement we're seeing within there. What does that mean operationally, and how do we
Yeah.
coach to the model that we've trained agents? So this is how we create a system of coaching, a system of language around soft skill, and all these things ultimately impact the customer experience, which is the main goal. But it also empowers our agents and empowers our leaders. So this was really born out of necessity where I think I haven't met a contact center yet that doesn't agree with this, and maybe I'll find one. But I think something we do a lot of things great in our industry, and I love that we do this thing. We
Yeah.
promote from within all the time, and that's so cool. I love that contact
Yes.
centers do that. Most of the leaders I've met, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I was an agent. They're a senior VP now," and
Uh-huh.
that's fantastic. And one of the areas though that we saw of opportunity was we're not the best at skilling them though. So we promote a
Hmm.
great agent to a leader, totally different skill set now.
Yep.
And how do you manage that? And then we also have agents coming in that are dealing with so much more complex issues because AI and automation is taking the brunt of that. There's no one calls anymore to say like, can you just update my name on my account? That's all being done like that's all automated now. So we're dealing with heavier emotions. We're dealing with, more escalated type issues, or the agent is becoming more of a universal agent, and they need to be more,
Hmm.
they take on more in their role. So soft skills are a huge piece of how do you connect and maintain that brand experience, in addition to giving confidence and skills to that agent. So that's kind of where it was born from. It was out of this idea of we really want to help skill, and then
Okay.
tying it back to before, like we need to make sure it's an effective system-based training, and that's where the Care CX IQ comes in. We help. That's what keeps it systematic. Every week, every day, supervisors are in there. They're coaching to those tools. We're using the language that we used in training and learned in everyday context, and that's how we're ritualizing it into the culture. So
I love that.
yeah, that's a little that's the crash course in what we do. And as far as people who are interested, I mean, I would say contact centers are definitely, one of the areas, but anywhere really where we've even worked with IT partners, we've worked in even in some manufacturing. I mean, anytime you're engaging with other people as a core attribute of the job, there's a benefit to work with a model like this. So, yeah,
I, Ben, I mean, the fact I love that because I mean, too often we can get pigeonholed into one industry or another. Um, that, oh, well, you've done training, but oh, you've only done training with contact center folks, or you've only done training in manufacturing settings, or, blah, 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 blah. That's an industry term too, by the way, blah, 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 blah,
blah blah
blah.
blah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a pretty
blah,
popular one.
exactly. So, um, so one of the things that I love about the way you're looking at training is the work that you do with your clients isn't just pigeonholed into one industry or one vertical or another. It really looks at the training process, the art of training, as opposed to, hey, this works in contact center, but it doesn't work in manufacturing. No, no, it works regardless of what industry you're in, and I
Yeah.
love the concept there.
Thanks. That's an important one. It's based on, psychology and effective learning practices, which is what makes it really really fun and enjoyable, honestly, because we it's awesome to be in a seat to bring results. I think
Yes,
so.
yes, I love it. So you talked a little bit about the who and the what. Let's dive in a little bit deeper to Care IQ. What are some of the specific insights that you're able to deliver for your customers using Care IQ? And is it just static or can it be customized?
Yeah, great question. So, um, just to kind of place the conversation in context, just building off of what we talked about, this is
Hmm.
that piece that really helps bring consistency. And if you want to use the word ritualized or whatever, this is what helps it become a system because it's a tool that's being used to reinforce what's been taught to drive
Hmm.
behavior change in the culture. And so, one, it delivers that, right? So it
Hmm.
helps deliver actual behavior change. But to the tool itself, it was actually really cool. There's, three of us that have been kind of working together on this, and I mean, it really started over a beer out in a brewery, and working with a good friend of both of ours, Matt Conant. Maybe people know him, and we were
Yep.
just kind of chatting about like, gosh, what would a cool tool be for this? How can we make this work? And we really started thinking around this idea of like, there's a challenge to contact centers right now of standardization of data, and this is why. How do you know definitively if you're a BPO that campaign A is outperforming campaign B, or how do you know that supervisor A, B, and C? How do you know like where they're performing against their teams or managers, especially if we start adding in different outputs, like these guys are all order entry, these are just the phones, these are, so we have these
Hmm.
differences in behavior, and our tool helps standardize that. So we create standardized KPIs across all of those based on roles, based on any kind of data really that the organization wants to track as a KPI. So it is fully customizable. We do work with them to understand their data, unify it, and put it together into a dashboard that provides these insights. And it can, when we work with different organizations, some of them have the insights coming in daily, some weekly, and we can work in either of those settings. So it's really based on their infrastructure. But what our tool does pretty uniquely is standardize that data and provide those insights. And where the power though is we're training and teaching those leaders how to use that, because it's one thing to have this awesome shiny silver tool that's just like, oh, this is incredible. It does all these things and it does all this AI stuff, but
Yep.
really, what do you do with that data and how does that impact your team? And that's what we train against it. So the tool itself does have some really cool features with standardization, allowing cross comparisons between managers, supervisors, and campaigns. But
Uh-huh.
most importantly, and the thing I always come back to is it's the glue, it's the stickiness of the content. It's what helps us continually think about care, the model of care, coach to it, and develop
Mhm.
others through it. That's really the power behind it. But it does have some pretty slick IT features as well.
Oh,
So,
I've been fortunate. You've shown me a demo of it, and I was like, oh man, this is really cool. This really helps. This will really help organizations, regardless of size. You could be small, you could be large, you could be in the middle somewhere, and it can really bring some value to organizations that are just scratching their heads in some cases. It's not because they have their trainers aren't their training staff or their training department, depending on the size of the organization. It's not because they're bad or lack competence. Not at all. Um, but it's how do you go ahead and make it a little bit more systemic? And I've seen systems put in place on call flows. And when those are put in place, they do amazing work. I love the way you're looking at it when it comes to training. Why not put a system in place that looks at training and very cool, very cool. One of the other
yeah.
features that I really like is that you could have a rookie and you could have a 5-year player. Um, and as long as you're leveling the playing field, so to speak, you can really tell, are you going to have a rookie of the year or are you going to have an MVP? Depending on length of term and speed to proficiency.
Yeah, that is a really cool element. And there's another piece that I really think is kind of fun about IQ as well. And we're one of the very few organizations that I can think of where we can come in, level the playing field with data, start the tool,
Yep.
apply training, and prove our value because the tool will demonstrate an increase in the KPIs that we've set to attack with the training. So
Yes.
it's pretty cool that like we can come in and actually like be like, here it is, here's
Yep.
the evidence through the tool. And I think that's really cool that we can come in and do that to be able to help organizations. And yeah, it's been really fun.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you're somebody who's had a very successful professional career, and I'm sure that, you know, as you look back over what you've been able to accomplish, you sometimes think, man, at this stage in my career, I wish I could go back in time and tell my younger self this.
Yeah.
How,
Oh
how
boy, how
would
much
that have
time do you
helped
got?
helped you navigate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh man. I'll try to keep it to 3 points. Is that fair
Yeah, there you go.
for that? Because I thinking of one is so tough because I
Yeah.
learned from the school of hard knocks. Unfortunately, I'm one of those guys who's like, well, that didn't work when I'm done. So I would say some of the things that are kind of like relevant to this conversation, something I would definitely have told myself was focus on systems, not speed. That was
Okay.
something where, in my young career, I definitely was like, I could take a 4 week training and cut it down to two, and that's
Uh-huh.
awesome, but I don't really know what, like, I'm not really actually evaluating the efficacy of that and understanding all the downstream impacts. And so I
Uh-huh.
think really focusing on systems training is something I think I would have helped myself a lot had I known that, 18 years ago. Some other just personal ones that maybe will resonate with other people, or for me personally, learning to say no earlier and protecting your focus, especially when you're leading L&D. It's
Hmm.
so easy to find all these different things, and some of them great ideas, and other are partner things. And I can't stress enough how important it is to be the partner to the strategic goals of the organization, but have a disciplined focus. And like I
Yes.
mean, you got to be focused on what those priorities are, and that was something I've definitely learned. And the other part is, I was thinking of this. Training reminds me a lot of music in the sense that, like, when you go see a band or different bands, you have all these
Uh-huh.
different like opinions of them. You'll be like, "Oh, that show with Green Day was awesome," and then like, "Oh, that show with Periphery like really stunk. The sound was bad." And everyone kind of has an opinion about the performer, if you will. And
Yep.
in learning and development, I think we still encounter that where it's like there's a preference to the trainer that you're in. And what really was something I needed to work through was to be more curious and not so defensive about feedback, because
Mm,
it's just ingrained in what we do. It's an experience for people. It is something that is evaluated by others. Like, you are just walking into judgment. It happens as a part of our
yes.
field. And I would definitely, when I was younger, I wish I would have told myself, like, just be more curious about why they're saying that, not so defensive. Because it could be hard to take feedback if I'm being real. I think that's a skill I've learned definitely over the last 18 years. But when I first started, it
Yeah.
was tough. So I'll
As
leave it at
as
those, though. I got another, I could write a whole book about that, though.
oh my gosh. That's your second book that
Yeah,
you'll have to write. No,
that's true.
as a dad, um, we see that in our kids. I mean, our kids get real defensive, if we start giving them feedback and they're not in the right mindset. So I love that, you know.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
a
we can pass it
challenge.
on to our kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I do try. I try to. I even find myself using coaching techniques of like, would you like some feedback on? That's what I got from you, Mark. You always did that. Ben, are you open to some feedback? No.
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Exactly. And
Like,
that's okay.
yeah. I
That's when
use
you
that
first
on the kids.
started getting comfortable with no.
Yeah, it takes time. But that's, yeah, I think that's just our industry in particular. Everything
Yeah.
we do is evaluated. So
Hmm.
it's tough sometimes if you don't, like, you put your heart and soul into it. You gave it 100% your best, and someone's like, "That stunk," and you're like, "Well, whatever."
Yeah.
So
Talk to the
it's
hand.
tough. Yeah.
There you go.
But anyways,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
those would be my messages to my younger self to focus on.
Excellent. Well, I love that you just used the word focus because now we're up to the focus round.
Ooh.
Dun dun dun.
All right, yeah.
Are you
Is
ready
that your
for
sound
this?
effect too?
I know.
I
I
love that.
come with sound effects.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. Free. No-
Yeah.
All right. What do
So
we got?
from today's conversation, what are the top three takeaways that you would want a viewer of our conversation um, to take away and take action on?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So the first thing I think is that culture change or behavior change really happens when training meets accountability. And
Mm,
that's about this idea of operationalizing what the outcomes of training are in a way that is in a ritual or routine, however you want to kind of frame that.
yep.
Um, The other piece is learning that sticks is really a system that's designed, not training that's delivered. So if you really want behavior change, and I think that's a great question to ask when you're designing. Like, am I trying to just build awareness or am I trying to
Mhm.
change behavior? Because if you're trying to build
Mm,
awareness, go ahead
yep.
and do the one-off courses. Like security courses, we do that all the time. I think those are great. But if we
Hmm.
want to really define a behavior change, you gotta design that type of training, not just deliver it, from a
Yes.
systems perspective. And the last one is kind of more of a, maybe a rally cry for the industry and what CareCX helps with, and that's remembering that in the future of service and where we're even at now, empathy, adaptability, and ownership, learning those soft skills is so critical because of how difficult the interactions are now for the agent with everything that's happened. And I think that that's something to remember, is that the skilling of our frontline agents is, it's imperative now.
Yep.
And that's, I think that's a big piece to remember in the era of AI and automation, which are fantastic things, but
Hmm.
remembering that when that person does finally come through, it's going to likely be a much more challenging scenario than it was 5 years ago. So,
Well, and I'm going to add a fourth one to you
ooh, yeah,
that I think is a huge takeaway. It's not just about the front lines; it's also about skilling up your supervisors and your managers and making sure that, go back to your music analogy, everyone's singing from the same sheet.
yeah.
So
that is also absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because
yeah.
I would also stand behind that full fledged. I think that
Yes.
we absolutely need to be skilling leaders. Everyone in the contact center that's focused around customer experience needs to be getting those skills.
Yep.
But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. What is it? What is it? ABC? It's not always be closing, it's always be coaching. You know?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's cool. That's like the
Yeah.
CX version of a sales thing. Like
Exactly.
always be
Exact.
coaching.
Always
That
be
is true.
coaching.
Yeah, that's
And
something we talk about in Care CX development. I love it because coaching is a mindset. It's not an action. I mean, actions come with it,
yes.
but I love it always be coaching because there's moments where it doesn't have to be formalized. In fact, most coaching probably isn't formal. So I think that's super cool. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for the next 5 hours if you let me on that one. But I
No,
love
no,
it.
no. You and I just in general, I'm glad we don't have beverages, adult beverages, because we could probably go for like hours talking about some of this stuff.
Yeah, we
Uh,
wouldn't end.
I love your just in general, I love your philosophy related to training and development. And plus, you're just a genuinely great guy to just hang with.
Oh,
So
thanks,
that's
man. You
that's
too.
my that's my opinion. So, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah,
So
I think I like it.
so outside of pricing, what is the value of working with you and the Care CX team?
Yeah, that's great. So I think some of it you know the audience has heard so far with my perspective and the organization's perspective that we take to learning and development.
Hmm.
That's one thing. We're really results focused, and we work through training systems. That's something that you could expect that brings value. But also, uh, more importantly, it's not just like buying a workshop or training. It's really it's investing in a system that ties behavior to ROI. So it ties behavior to metrics to ROI and brings results that way through our systematic approach to learning and development. And I think that's really where our values are. And then there's also the things that we've talked about too with investing in your people. Like there's
Yes.
value in programs like this because it affects things like their career longevity and attrition. It affects their confidence, their ability to feel okay with taking on. One of the things that we got for feedback that was awesome was there was a team we worked with that felt so uncomfortable with escalated callers, and of course that's a portion of what we teach, and they felt so much just more capable was the word they used, and I loved that. And I was
Hmm.
because nothing's gonna make that situation like fun, you know.
Yes.
but but you can get capable, and I share that because I think that's a value of working with us is that we bring those results to the team, and then it has value to the organization in attrition. It has value in confidence and building up skills to the leadership to make sure that there's a uniformity in what we're doing and teaching. Um, and of course, you get to work with me, you know.
What, that seals the deal for me personally. That seals the deal for me.
Yeah,
You
that's what
know.
I'm saying, you know. You get but no, that's I would say that's our big focus. It's really I mean, we're not going to come in and say like, yeah, we'll come out there and do you know, a 2 hour shop and then leave. It's really we want to sit down and understand like what are the pain points?
Yeah.
How do we help? You know, we want to come alongside and walk with the organization in this learning and development journey, not not come in and try to slice and dice everything or try to just come in and out with a workshop. We do offer workshops, but I think our main thing that we focus on is systemic change.
I love how you use the term work with an organization, because there may be some things that within an organization they're doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Um, but it's fragmented and segmented out from other things that may be going on, and just your ability to come in and look at L&D at a different level, um, and really bring all of it together is it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool how you
Thanks.
do that. So,
It's fun to do. That's for
and
sure.
and for me, that's a big differentiator, for Care CX, that I see for you. I don't know, are there other differentiators between you and competitors of yours out there?
Yeah, I think definitely the training systems focus is a big one.
Yep.
We also really focus on a fusion of analytics and empathy. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
we drive behavior is really driven by analytics and the data that goes into IQ to learn about it to be able to coach. But I think that kind of fusion really helps. kind of tell a better story. It's almost like data tells the story, but people make it better. So we help them
Mm,
understand what story's happening through the
yes.
tool and through training and development, and then we teach them how do we actually, and that's where I think the most critical piece is like,
Yep.
therefore what? So cool, you have all this data. What are you doing
Hmm.
with it? So helping bring that specifically to a coaching and a model that focuses on lifting up the agents.
Love it. Love it. Like we said, Ben, you and I could sit here for hours. Um, Others might be bored, but you and I would be interested in the conversation. But if someone wants to pick your brain or find out a little bit more about CareCX, L&D resources that are available that are out there. I mean, you mentioned Bob Pike a little bit ago. Or what conferences or other events that you might be attending? How could or should they contact you?
Yeah. Well, thanks for that opportunity. So, a few things. My email is ben@care-cx.com. I was told that's such a founder email because it's not
Yeah.
ben.gertz or anything. It's just ben at
Yeah.
care-cx.com. So that's one way. We have
Mhm.
care-cx.com as your website to check that out. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, socials, and shoot me a message. And if it's training related, I'm almost certainly to respond and be captivated by whatever conversation's happening. So there's a lot of different ways to get in touch with me. Also, with this podcast, I'd love if you mention this podcast to me, we're offering 10% off just for mentioning the podcast. So that's
There
an
you go.
awesome opportunity to take advantage of. And we're always open to do free 1 hour assessments on training programs just to chat because some people want to know like what does it even look like to integrate you or what it's
Uh,
required for all this data. Let's
yep.
talk, with no pressure. We just want to better understand if we're a good partner and if the relationship can fit. So
I
those
love
are
it.
ways to get a hold of me and things that we're doing. And as far as speaking, I am speaking at the Work From Home Alliance in Denver on November 5th and 6th. So kind of coming up.
Nice.
I do a lot of work with them. Work From Home Alliance, I am going to give them a plug. They are an incredible online resource, especially if you manage virtual employees.
Yep.
One of the best out there that you can get plugged into to learn more. And Bob Pike Group, they're their own organization independent of CareCX, but I stand by their methodology for training design. I think
Mhm.
that is a reason that I don't offer programs on training trainers how to train better because I don't think it gets better than what they're doing now. So
Yes.
instead, I work with them to do it because they're doing it very, very well. So if you're looking to understand just how to train better, I think that's an incredible resource in the marketplace to go visit. And
Excellent.
obviously
Excellent.
you, Mark, like I mean, people don't even realize that you are the sage or the guru of contact centers, technology, coaching, training, learning and develop. I mean, you're deliberately giving me space in this conversation, but to Mark's audience, he could run this conversation. He knows what he's doing. I mean, you're an incredible resource as well. So,
You're too kind. I just know really smart people like yourself, Ben, that can make that help me look a little bit more intelligent. So
we'll see if I can accomplish that or not, but
yeah,
I will do my best. I just
you know,
I
and
definitely don't have all the answers, but I have the passion to discover them. So
that is definitely one of the things that I just got sucked in about you when we first started working together years ago, and is just your curious nature of I don't know how to do this now, but I'll figure it out, and I'm going to come back to you with like an absolutely amazing plan of attack, and it's going to be done in the next 24 hours. You know. Um,
yeah,
I mean, for a leader that figures out how to build an airplane while flying it, I mean, you do an amazing job at that. So, you
thanks.
know,
I appreciate it. It's I've learned a few things along the way of building that airplane while flying it. I've had a few
yeah,
crashes and I bring that too to organizations. Like I've learned what does and doesn't work.
yes. Hey,
Emphasis on what doesn't. I've been there.
and I
So,
love it. Definitely, if you guys are interested in learning more about Ben, CareCX, and it's not carecx.com, it's care-cx. .com. Definitely reach out to him. Check out Work From Home Alliance. Jeremy's doing some great things with that group.
yeah, he is.
Continuing to level that group up. And um, you know, definitely Ben, when you're in town, barbecue's on me.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to
Excellent. Well,
that.
thank you very much for joining me in this conversation of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And look forward. If you like this conversation, feel free to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. My 7-year-old daughter taught me that. Always remember like and subscribe. And we definitely want to hear any feedback that you have for Ben, about this, or if you want me to go ahead and introduce you directly to Ben, I'd love to be able to do that. I think we know how to reach out and communicate with one another. So,
Yeah, we do.
looking forward to our next conversation, Ben. And again, thank you very much for being gracious with your time today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Love the community, and it's a great opportunity. Thanks, Mark.
All right, thanks.